Hi, it's Linda Fox. I'm senior reporter with PhocusWire, and I'm here with William Bao Bean. He's partner with SOSV. Welcome, William. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
So let's start here. Obviously, we are still in the throes of the pandemic, and you will have lived through the past 18 months like the rest of us, trying to deal with it as best you can. But what would you say are the hot areas for startups, right now? Travel startups,
so I think,
obviously.
of course, travel. So we're one of the more active investors in early stage travel startups across Asia. And it has not been an easy time of it. We lost a couple of companies. But I think the thing that's really, from an Asian perspective, done well is domestic travel. So you have some markets like China and Taiwan where they've closed the borders, but domestic, there was not a lockdown. I mean, we've been back. I'm in Shanghai right now. We've been back in the office since March of last year. Things are pretty normal. There's really no COVID. So domestic has really, really taken off, but there's almost zero, basically zero international travel. I'm still traveling in and out, but I'm the exception, not the rule. So we've seen, hotels and travel companies really rejigger to instead of like here in Shanghai, business hotels have really refocused on consumer domestic travel, sort of like weekend getaways and things like that. And from a startup standpoint, experiences have done very, very well, especially domestic experiences. So even after COVID hit, we closed the investment that we were looking at in India in a company called Dayor Camps, because we thought that the first thing that would come back were those experiences. And in fact, that's what happened. So we went to sort of into hibernation, focus on building that community. Then as things opened up, there's really a huge pent up demand from the market for these experiences, getting out, getting in the sunshine, getting on a motorcycle, going on these like long excursions. Sure. And so we've seen these experiences really take off.
So you said you lost a couple there. Now, you probably don't want to name names, but were they, specific to a particular segment or anything like that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, well, they weren't famous. They weren't famous companies. Sorry about that.
Okay.
They weren't famous. They weren't famous companies, right? They were early stage startups. One of the benefits of being here in China is we got kind of early warning because things hit here first. So we gave, and this is very tough. But in February last year, we told our companies, "Hey, listen, you should fire your entire team tomorrow." And that's what they did. They basically let go of the entire team, paid them off, made sure that they got their severance, right? So it was properly done instead of dragging things out. And then it was very difficult, but the right decision. So we lost a couple, and that was in cross-border packages, specifically for India. To the rest of the world. Now there's still some international travel, and then now it's opening up. But you saw India to some of the Maldives that was still open, and then India to the Middle East. It opened up a bit more. Now we're seeing travel pretty much back to normal. India to the Middle East, but those international companies took a massive whack. Another company that we lost was doing travel insurance for travelers from all over Asia flying into Europe on international flights, and those flights being delayed. And so you have the European law where you get like if the flight's delayed, you get like a little fee, right? And that was the end of that. So we lost a couple there. But we've done very well on the experiences side. We also, funnily enough, the users who love travel, they also love duty free. So we had a lot of our travel companies like Travel Flan, who used to sell travel packages and are now actually selling travel packages again. But on top of that, they switched and they're also selling e-commerce. So their partnership with Latte Group on the duty free side, we basically took all that makeup, all those cosmetics that were in the duty free in the airports across Asia,
and stuck it online.
Sold them on e-commerce. Yeah, we put it online. We sold it out, and actually now We have a travel company that's also a lifestyle luxury e-commerce company, and they're stronger than ever in closing a big round right now.
And sorry, just briefly going back to, having to let everyone go the next day, was that because, you just did not want them to have that sort of, kind of almost liability on the books because you saw that it was going to be a big thing for a prolonged period?
Yeah, I mean, the company had less than $100,000 in cash and 30 people on the payroll, which in India is not, that many actually, because the monthly salaries are mostly commission based. But still, you don't want to, be in a position where you, as a founder and as a startup, have to sell your house in order to pay out your employees and do the right thing. So in this case, the right thing is just rip the Band-Aid off. And make that decision right away. And so I've done 280 investments over the last 25 years in tech investment. When things like this happen, it's no one's fault, but you need to move very quickly, very decisively to make those tough decisions.
Yeah. So I recall that 2 years ago at PhocusWire in Europe, you talked about the investment going towards deep tech. You mentioned blockchain and you mentioned AI. Would you say that that is still the case?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, back then we just invested in a company called TravelRight, and they're using chatbots and AI to increase conversion to purchase, right? So you have content with go check out this amazing waterfall, or go on a trek into the Kashmir, or go air ballooning or whatever. But there's content, but people have questions. They want to know the details, and so using an AI-driven chatbot and a human, but also an AI chatbot assistant to actually answer those questions, close the deal. I mean, we're seeing conversion rates that are industry leading. So you wouldn't, most people think that the travel industry is over, right? That the big guys are going to stay big and that there's no opportunity. But we're seeing our GMVs for some of our companies go through the roof, and that's based on technology. And it's also based on a backlash against big internet, right? Because people across the board, especially in the travel industry, they're not super keen on big internet. They don't want to be beholden to Google ads and Facebook ads, right? So partnerships and having a strong BD has really made a big difference.
Okay. And I mean, there is a sort of train of thought that says that there isn't going to be much innovation anymore on the travel product side. So, perhaps if you said that Airbnb and Uber were the last big kind of innovations in that field, would you agree with that, or do you see more product type innovation coming?
Well, I'd say that so what we're looking at is social commerce. And social commerce is people doing things together, and it's actually a mix between media, social like friends, and commerce. The challenge here is that the Western traditional social networks don't understand e-commerce. Facebook has been cloning Tencent for the last 6 or 7 years on WeChat, but they still haven't. They're still trying to figure out e-commerce. They're still trying to figure out payment, right? And they're still so far behind. E-commerce is against the terms of service for Instagram and Facebook, and we're spending all the time that we can helping influencers and KOLs and celebrities go around and over and sometimes through the regulations created by companies like Google and like Facebook. And so, these large, big internet, they're for us one of the biggest problems with the space. But technology can provide the solution. So a lot of our startups are really helping both the hotels and the experience providers, and on the one side, and the startups on the other side, bring the consumers together with these amazing experiences. And based on trust, right? That's what social commerce is all about. It's about trust, and it's a different type of purchase. It's a different type of experience. It's not about like how good your Google ads are, right? And so I think you'll see the market share grow over time for this trust-based social commerce. versus intent-driven, search-based. Basically there's kind of the traditional model. We're working with what we call them in Asia key opinion leaders, or you can say influencers or celebrities. They're becoming increasingly important. In the early days, it was a little hard to get these key opinion leaders to get travel, to recommend travel, to actually drive conversions on travel. But that model is changing. And I mean, that the challenges there are changing, and people are much more willing to make purchase decisions in the travel space, especially around experiences based on people's recommendation.
I mean, do you think that's why things like live streaming worked, quite well in the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, one of the challenges is you want to know that the product is like real. You want to see it. It's pretty hard to fake something.
Yeah.
In a live demo, right? Now it's a little difficult to do that with travel when there's restrictions. But a lot of those restrictions are off. So you do have these influencers, and there's a huge market of sending influencers on trips. Before, people weren't making purchases off that. Now, increasingly they are, so far so good. It's working pretty well. But for deep tech, like you were saying before, for deep tech, that's more like a conversion to optimize conversion rates. Yeah. But the also social commerce is not. You don't usually think about it as deep tech, I'll give you an example. We have a company called Voila, and they work with influencers, so over 15,000 influencers on Instagram. Now, the influencer is promoting, I don't know, a black T-shirt, right? And so, you can click on, the person can click on the black T-shirt and then go, Gesundheit, and go on off of Instagram onto our platform, and they can buy the T-shirt. But the key is that oftentimes that black T-shirt is not exactly what the consumer might want. So what Voila does is they use AI, personalization, and data, what they know about the black T-shirt, what they know about what the influencer wrote, what they know about the consumer hitting that landing page for the influencer. And then they make 5 or 6 other recommendations, using
around
AI,
that
pulling
T-shirt.
from, pulling from all over the internet, pulling from every e-commerce sites and all over the internet. And on average, we're seeing an 800% increase in conversion to purchase. And you
could see that working for travel?
Well, the thing is, somebody is talking about like, hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. It works pretty well with experiences. Now, the thing that you're up there, the person might be talking about, going on a weekend jaunt in Vermont, right? Well, I'm not in Vermont, I'm Shanghai, right? So I'm interested in the sort of the weekend type of getaway to a bed and breakfast or whatever. So that for me, the recommendations would be, okay, go to a weekend getaway at Naked Resorts or Naked Horseback in Hangzhou, 2 hours west of Shanghai, that type of thing. And the algorithms decide, and the conversion rates are increasing. So far, so good.
Okay, cool. So is there, do you think, a particular geography that we're going to see innovation in?
Well, I think now I think tech is global. So we're really what we're seeing is one size fits all from the big global players, and you are seeing localized innovation, but it's not like a specific deep tech for a particular market. It's more like localization in that certain audiences require something a bit different, right? So I'm not really, we're not seeing like the Indian market is coming up with something extra special. The China market is coming up with something extra special. Now, the way people purchase in China is different. It's much more social. It's much more content based than say in the US. But that's not so much technology driven. That's just a user habit, different purchasing habits. I mean, people much more focused on trust in China. Whereas in the US, you've got some pretty well-known brands that have been along for a long time, and people, kind of know what's up. So.
Okay, so then, you partner with SOSV, and within that, MD of China Accelerator and MOC. So you're seeing kind of the early stage type funding and some of the later stage as well. And is that what you're seeing now? What's the sort of overall picture of the rounds that are going in? Is it lots of early stage and then some later, but not much in the middle, or how is it kind of playing out?
Yeah, so I'd say there's actually, every market's different. Asia is not one place, right? So China, there's a huge amount of investment, but it's moved away from consumer a bit.
Yeah.
It's more towards, but when I say it's moved, consumer internet, it's gone away from consumer internet. So consumer products are big. Actually, experiences are quite big, and activities. People are. You wouldn't people are getting together and renting farms in the countryside to go hang out with each other, things like that. Now you see, you think about people in the UK doing that, or people in the US or maybe Europe doing that, but like urbanites in China going back and renting farms, 2 generations ago, they just got off the farm and now they want to go back. Yeah. So it's interesting. In terms of the funding market, it's very, very strong right now. In the public markets, people are afraid for Alibaba and Tencent, but those are 2 monopolies. And there's a big move, anti-monopoly, antitrust, anti-big internet. But that's really opening things up for startups, opening things up for the people who are not Alibaba and Tencent. And you've seen, Starbucks before couldn't sell on JD, now they can, right? And so JD's, and some of these other companies, like the second tier, the third tier companies, are seeing a second breath, second life, and startups have a much bigger opportunity now that they can sell on Ali and Tencent, not just on one or the other. So that's for China. Southeast Asia, South Asia, COVID's been very tough. There's like waves. Countries like India are pretty much open now. 80% of people in Mumbai have basically had COVID. They have antibodies, so we've moved beyond that, and things are kind of back to normal. So it's not every country is the same.
It's the same.
Okay. Yeah. So, but the funding right now, super, super strong. I mean, SPACs have had a really positive impact on Southeast Asia, just because at the top of the market, you're finally getting exits for the first time.
Yeah. So in terms of what you're looking for, would you say it's changed over the course of the pandemic as you're looking at startups?
Well, I mean, we over the last few years, we actually diversified all across Asia. We started in China, then Southeast Asia, then South Asia, and now we're into Pakistan, Bangladesh, and going into Africa. So we're taking some of the lessons that we learned from China through to these other markets. But since the regulatory changes, the anti-big internet, we're actually, we went way down in China. Now we're looking at a bit more in China. So we went down to maybe 10%. We're looking at bringing that up a little bit, especially helping Chinese companies go global. That's a really big push. So especially around consumer. You've got consumer internet and also consumer products companies in China looking to go global. They might not be going to the US, but going to Europe and Southeast Asia and other markets. So this cross-border is a pretty big trend that we're seeing for travel. It's been a pretty tough market, right? COVID's not been friendly. A lot of companies have been in hibernation. But domestic travel got a huge boost from this. And there's been, just sort of, and then, countries like Korea, China, Taiwan's a little small, but Taiwan, the domestic, kind of out of the way locations that most people don't hit, saw a swing back over the last year. So for us, we're looking mostly around where lifestyle and content and travel kind of come together. So, for instance, we're for companies like, say, a Travel Flan, they have relationships with, FIFA for football. Now, football is starting to become, people are going to more matches and things like that. Starting to see decent opportunities there. I think, Dubai 2020, which is now Dubai 2021, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. There's just been a huge internet business conference there that a lot of people are going to. And so I think starting next year, conferences and travel across Asia is going to really start picking up. I'm talking about international travel. So we made a couple bets, one in Dayor. We doubled down and Travel Plan, and then there's a company called Pouch Nation, which does these little bracelets that you use to go to music festivals and also hotels. And during COVID, they put a temperature gauge in, so they can tell where you are in the facility, in the hotel, in the conference center, in the party hostel. They can also have your temperature, and then you can pay for things, right? So technology is helping. Hotels, but also events and even office buildings, but really within convention centers, be able to address government concerns, because the government is holding, to some extent, holding things back for good reason. But technology can solve for the concerns of the government and really open up the industry again. So Pouch Nation is getting a lot of demand from a lot of the big convention and hotel groups, and especially for vacation hotels and resorts. So that's been pretty good. And then now we're starting to see some of the festivals come back, music festivals outdoor, coming back in some of the countries step by step. So overall, quite positive. I mean, the thing about early stage investing is there's good times and there's bad. And so what we do is we invest pretty much in an even keel all the way through. So you get the bad times, but the best time to invest is generally during these downtimes. So we have not stopped during this period. We're advising our companies to be very mindful of their cash burn. But this is actually the best time because there's just much less competition than there used to be before.
Okay, William, we are out of time here, I'm sad to say, but that's a good positive note to finish on. So William Bao Bean, partner SOSV, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks a lot. Thank you so much.